Today for our campfire stories, we are playing Subnautica 2. This is the first time I've ever played this game, or seen it for that matter. We'll also be going through construction stories on Reddit, but first I wanted to give you a personal construction story of mine from a few years back. As I was walking to my truck to drive home, we got called back into the office for an emergency job. This job just went being a regular 8-hour day to a 30-hour shift. At the time I worked for the gas company and somebody had located gas and electrical conduit. This means that this is a code 1 call and we have to get out there immediately. Now the important note here is that since it was an emergency, we would not have to wait for 811 to come out and locate the utilities. We're going to be circling back around to that later. Anyways, we get there and cannot see any pipe, and this is a packed street in California by the beach. So we are having to park in the middle of the street to do this work. We opened 2 holes in the middle of the road, and we located the gas line on a 1-inch service feeding a triplex. Now, due to the age of the steel line, we are told to replace the service in its entirety, because if we fixed the existing line, we could create a bigger issue. At this point, it's 9 p.m. Our supervisor is going home. We were told to bore a new plastic line to replace the steel. Now, if you don't know what boring is, it's when you drill into the ground horizontally to run a new line into the ground. The bore is mechanically driven, so it can go through just about anything. Now, all we gotta do is bore 10 feet at most from one hole to the other. So the boring is going smooth. All of a sudden, I hear tink, tink, tink. I hop in the hole to tell my lead to stop by tapping him on the shoulder because it's so loud he cannot hear me yelling to him. He stops, then all of a sudden, water shoots out of both holes, 10 feet in the air. We jump out to not get blasted by water. Turns out, we hit a 12-inch main that was feeding the entire area, and this is roughly 3 a.m. now. So now we got to wake up all the leadership and wait for the city to come out and shut off the water. This will take several hours. So we're having to sit there as water is washing away all of our piles of dirt and absolutely making the entire roadway a muddy mess. We make it through the night and they come to turn the water off around 6 a.m. Now the whole night we're talking to leadership and we're talking to each other about how the water main was never marked. So we're in the clear with not getting in trouble. Because as I said before, we're an emergency service, so it does not need to be marked for us to start work. We have been at work since 5 a.m. the day before, so we are well over 24 hours into our shift, and now we finally get to go home. We moved our giant work truck out of the way to make room for the crew coming in to replace us, and wouldn't you know it, the blue water main marking was below our truck the whole time. Now at this point, they tell us don't worry about what happened, just go home and we'll talk tomorrow. Reason being is, I lived several hours away from where I worked still, so I'd have to go drive in traffic to get home, and we've been up for 30 hours. There's laws with them keeping us. Once we get back to work the next day, we get told we weren't in trouble and we owed everybody breakfast for the next week. Considering the circumstances, I was very happy to bring in sandwiches for the rest of the week. Now, an important note here is, it's funny when I look back at it, is we were the youngest crew there. So it was myself as the junior, and then we had a lead. I'm 20 years old, maybe 21 at most, and my lead is 27, 28 years old. So we are extremely young doing this job and being in the positions we're in. Now, we were great at our job. We did everything well. That was the first time we had ever hit a water main, and we absolutely just blasted it through. I was very grateful that we did not get fired that day. All right, our next story is from Reddit. It's a deleted comment, so I can't see who the username was. He said, I watched a guy nail his foot to a piece of subfloor. We had some new Kevlar steel cap shoes or some shit like that, and said they were rated for up to 2 tons of pressure. He was young and a bit of an idiot, if you couldn't tell already. He said, watch this, as he proceeded to fire a 3.5-inch ring shank framing nail into his toe, which promptly deflected just above his toe, through his boot, through his foot, and directly into the 3/4-inch ply decking. Oh my lord. He couldn't even lift his foot off the plywood. We had to cut it out around his boot with a skill saw. Tried to use a sawzall, but the vibration was too rough on him. And if you've ever had to cut with a sawzall, you know that it rattles everything it touches. So that means it was just rattling that nail through his foot in that section. Back to the story. And drive him to the ER with the wood still attached to his foot. Doctor said The head of the nail ended up about a half inch past the top of his foot, and they had a hell of a time getting it out. In hindsight, it's one of the funniest things I ever saw. At the time, I thought me and half the crew were gonna get canned. Lucky for us, the kid owned up to it and admitted to being an idiot. Now, we don't let just anyone grab the nail gun to do any demonstrations. So good on him, man. You gotta respect the guy for owning up to the mistake he made. I'm not sure what happened to the kid. He stayed on with us for a few months, but had a pretty bad drug issue after his mom died. Asked for a pay advance for 1 week and never came back. This was a few years back now. Hope he kicked his demons. He was pretty good shit. So he was at least good at his job. Next story is another deleted comment. This gentleman says, I was on a crew in a historic town in Virginia. We were renovating a place that had been a Chinese restaurant that had extensive fire damage. We're turning it into a super chic architectural office. So this was one of those cute historic downtown areas. All brick, pedestrian only, no cars down the main street, just shops and restaurants. So the city had some rule that we couldn't padlock our porta potties, and there were tons of drug addicts and homeless in the area. Oh Lord. If you've ever been to construction and you've had druggies near where you work, you know where the story's about to go. So every morning, our porta potty in the alley was just wrecked. Used needles, shit smears, broken meth pipes, pee everywhere, you know. I swore to myself I would never take a poo, saying it gently, at the job site, no matter what. I can already see where this story's going. I ended up taking a Friday off to get a vasectomy. Took it easy through the weekend, but went out to get a new burrito place on Sunday. Went back to work on Monday. You can probably see where this is going. Monday was slow, started having some serious stomach issues in the afternoon, and told my super I was gonna go upstairs and clean. So I'm sweeping my little heart out. but farting like a Clydesdale. I'm like, oh God, this is happening. I'm gonna have to drop one, but still trying not to give up. The pain is getting real. Meanwhile, my super comes up and finds me leaning against some framing, just white-faced and sweating, trying to refuse the shit. And he takes a big sniff and goes, dude, it smells like straight up ass in here, and left. I couldn't take it anymore. I go to the jug den porta potty and let loose. Now, mind you, I had fresh stitches in my balls, both sides. They had only barely started healing. It had only been 2.5 days since they cut me open. Oh my goodness. Brother, go in a bucket instead. My poo that I had been holding like a champ came out in one giant burrito-sized shaped deuce and slam dunked the blue stuff, and puke and drug addict waste was not just Poseidon's kiss, but a full-on Fukushima tsunami to the undercarriage. I was like, that's it. I'm gonna die. My balls are gonna get infected, and I'm gonna die of some meth-related flesh-eating disease. It's all over. Cleaned up best I could, but there was still an hour drive home from the job site. Wow, what a story. Listen, guys, I just want to say, with our channel, you're not gonna be getting any AI slop. You're gonna get my honest reactions as I'm reading these stories, as I'm telling you my own stories. So sometimes they might not be perfectly cut, or I may enunciate a word wrong, or whatever the case is, but you're getting a true creator. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if you want more content.